I got my start in conservative radio working with Martha Zoller. Martha is from my hometown. Well, I don't know if she's from there, but she's lived there forever. We adopt folks after so long. Doing the Martha Zoller show, I would fill in for her. I've always been a lifelong conservative. I've always done her show and other conservative talk shows up here in North Georgia. So I actually get some calls from this way, actually. I've actually talked to people from Jasper. And like Bill said, I was always a Democrat. And I really didn't know why, outside of the fact that I was in Hall County and everybody was a Democrat. And as Joe was talking about, I had rose to some decent roles in the Democratic Party. I actually was a primetime speaker in 2004 at the Democratic National Convention because of my role as the national president of all the college Democrats in the country. That was a role that I took, just kind of rose up to the top of it in law school my second year at LSU. Still go Dogs, I finished UGA. But, you know, it set up a situation where I got elected as a Democrat in Hall County to be a county commissioner. But after some of the progression that some of these guys said, you know, I'm a big reader. You know, I read everything I get a hold of. I'm a big shrugger, actually, with Ayn Rand and some other things. And it became to a point of, kind of like you said, the oxymoron began to live itself out only with this new administration, in my opinion. It got to the point to where, I'll put it this way, the reason I had not probably switched to being a Republican earlier was because I didn't have that much faith in the Republican Party. One of the biggest reasons I was able to switch really is because of the Tea Party. It was one of the things that I felt that it was not only a party that would talk about being conservative, but it actually had an accountability arm to it, that all of a sudden I could trust them to be conservative because they had people in the party now who were going to make them do what they had always talked about. So the lines all of a sudden were very clear for me, that I could switch now and not feel like I'm switching just to join another party that's talking a lot but not going to do anything. So once I saw the rise of the Tea Party and I saw that there was a real conservative movement in this country where people just were not going to take it anymore and they were going to make sure that their elected officials did what they said they were going to do, I had absolute confidence that I couldn't be on the side of the aisle that was fighting against my values. And I felt that being a Blue Dog Democrat, as we saw in the last election, was, you know, a setup for slaughter. Is they would let you run as a conservative, but at the end of the day they had to vote for Pelosi. And you had to vote for Pelosi, that's what got Obamacare. And then you're supposed to go back home and go back to being conservative. It's not a life for any politician to want to live. And at my age, I'm 30 years old, I felt like it was time for me to go. I felt like I would rather be on the side that was going to fight for my values and aid and abet the people that were trying to destroy them. So it was a clear choice. And on December 9th, I made the choice to switch to the Republican Party. And it made a couple of headlines here and there, and probably spawned a book, you know. Right, for TV, right. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Cool.
Well, you know, it's really an issue that the left, I think, tries to make gray, but I don't think it really is. I think, as she was saying, you know, we're a nation of laws, not of men, and at the end of the day, law has to prevail. And the moment you disregard law, and you began to say, let's just have a society where some laws apply and some don't, and how we feel about them will just kind of go and how we, you know, wishy-washy with them. That's the slippery slope that takes us to absolute anarchy, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And at the end of the day, we have to respect the laws we have. And there's a lot of fault to be passed around about why we are where we are. But we have to just argue that this is our country, this is a nation of laws, and we want everybody to respect it. I live in a county that we've had 287G for 4 years. 287G, for folks that know it, if you get pulled over or anything here in this country illegally, they ship you out. And we've lost probably 30,000 people in the last 4 years. We took the hit. We figured out going back to the economy that we can exist in and the industries that we can exist in, and we're moving forward. People are going to have to be here legally. And the folks that are legal are moving to Hall County. And they're taking the jobs of the folks that were removed. And that's just how it works. That's the market system. And we're surviving. And I think at the end of the day, people know that all we want is a country that will be governed by laws and people that respect the Constitution. Well, you know, I think when it comes to the debt, you know, to explain it to anybody, I think a young person is any other demographic, you got to put it in terms they understand. Put it in terms of any household, of any family. Our country, you know we have a spending problem. And just as much as we talk about having a limit on how much debt, the debt ceiling, there needs to be a spending ceiling. There needs to be a limit on how much money we can spend. If you can limit that, then the other side of the equation is health. And I think that's the way the conversation has to go well, we just cap how much we spend, and then we will pay down our debt. But until we have that conversation, I think, we're not realistically dealing with it.
So you're referring to like a balanced budget amendment, something like that, tied to GDP or something?
Right. Just something, exactly, tied to GDP, limiting how much money we spend. And so this would force all these other things to come to head. Force us to really deal with entitlements, force us to deal with all that out of control spending, because we would have a limit on where we are if we're going to actually decrease the deficit. When the generation ahead of me was involved in politics, when I see folks like my Congressman Nathan Deal, who are always relating to young people and showing up to schools, and my mayors around that sort of thing, they always encouraged us. And I think it was just a different political environment. I just lived in a community where everybody was very active. You had the Martha Zollas on the radio every day, and everybody, it was that sort of culture. So for me, I was the youngest person ever elected in Hall County at 27. But people were okay with it because they knew that, they knew where I came from. And it's one of those things where they understood that part of recruiting the next generation is being okay with young people running for office, voting for someone younger than you, having a commission, Hall County Commission, that's diverse by generation, that it's good to have somebody sitting on a local board that's got kids actually in the school that you're talking about, And I think that's really a part of it. It's encouraging more young people to be active. You always have young people running for office no matter where you are, and even though you don't vote for them, if for whatever reason if you don't agree with them, still encourage them. Still encourage them to be active, and I think that's a big part of it.
SecularStupidist.com, Conservative.com, RightOsophy.com.